What's going on YouTube? This is SG1 Sports and you're watching our college football channel. It's time for my week 4 predictions. Yes, one of the greatest Saturdays in the history of college football. I talked about that on my upset alert video. So many great games. Hard to make predictions on a lot of these games because I don't feel really confident on a lot of them. It's still early in the season. We're learning about a lot of these teams. I think after this week we'll know about pretty much every team though. And so this is my best guess at how the week is going to go. We'll start with Auburn, Texas A&M. Noon Eastern time on ESPN. Texas A&M favored by 8.5. I believe that line was like 6.5 before, so I think that's going up. Not a good sign for Auburn. So you look at this matchup here. Texas A&M, I know everyone's overreacting to that Miami game. I still feel like this is a top 25 team. The offense has, Connor Wigman's been playing really well. Defense gave up some big plays against Miami. Is Auburn going to have those big plays on offense that can hurt Texas A&M? I don't know. That's definitely a concern. Game is on the road for Auburn. Defense for Auburn has played well this year so far, especially their secondary. Their secondary is really good, but they've got some injuries there. And I think all this adds up to a game that's not super close. I think Texas A&M wins it 31-17. Competitive, not a blowout. But I do think the Aggies win by a couple of possessions. Next up, we've got Florida State versus Clemson, noon Eastern time on ABC. Florida State's favored by 2.5 points. Seems like everyone is expecting Florida State to win this game. I feel like people were over, and that's the thing. I may be wrong here, but I feel like people were overreacting to the Clemson-Duke game. Clemson kind of gave that game away. 2 fumbles right there at the goal line. A lot of mistakes. And I'm not saying that Duke should not have won that game. Duke probably maybe still would have won the game if Clemson had not made those mistakes, but they would not have blown them out. My point is that game would have been really close. Duke's a very good football team. The game was on the road. That does not tell me that Clemson's going to be awful. I still think Clemson's going to be a good team this year, but the difference in this game is Death Valley. That's the difference for me. I think Florida State is a better football team than Clemson. I think if they played it on a neutral field, Florida State would win, but this is in Death Valley. It's one of the toughest places to play in all of college football. Clemson's only lost, I think, a couple of games there in the last, I don't know how many years. I think the home field advantage is going to be the difference, and that's why I'm going with Clemson. 27-24. Again, talent-wise, I don't think there's a huge gap. I do think Florida State's a little bit better than Clemson, but not by a lot. And again, home field advantage is going to be the difference. I'm going with Clemson to pull off this slight upset. Next, we've got UCLA, Utah, 3:30 Eastern time on Fox. Utah favored by 5.5 points in this one. So this one is interesting. It does appear that Cam Rising might play. That seems to be the way things are trending. I would have taken UCLA before. If with no Cam Rising, I just don't think Utah's offense would have been able to do enough in this game. But assuming Cam Rising is going to play, I'm going to take Utah to win this one close, 24-20. Dante Moore's first real test on the road at quarterback for UCLA. Maybe he makes a couple of mistakes against a really good Utah defense, and the Utes take advantage. They win, but close, 24-20. Next, we've got Ole Miss at Alabama, 3:30 Eastern time, CBS. Alabama favored by 7 in this game, and again, I said this the other day, it feels like Ole Miss is the favorite in this game. It seems like everyone's taking them to win, and again, just like with Clemson and Duke, just like with Texas A&M against Miami, I think people are overreacting to one game. And you look at Alabama, the South Florida game was awful, but they did not play Jalen Milroe at quarterback. With him in there, let's just ignore the last game. With them in there, they completely blew out Middle Tennessee, a Middle Tennessee team that only lost to Missouri by 4, a Missouri team that just beat Kansas State. And then they lost to Texas, but they had the lead in the second half of that game. Texas is a really good team. Yes, that tells me that Alabama is not an elite top 5 team, but still losing to Texas the way they did doesn't tell me Alabama's awful or anything like that. Ole Miss has looked kind of up and down in these games against Tulane and Georgia Tech. At times they've looked really good, and then other times they maybe haven't looked great. I just don't see Ole Miss going on the road and winning this game. If Jalen Milroe just takes care of the football, Alabama runs the ball, I think the offensive line will play better. I think Alabama wins this game 34-24. I feel like I'm in the minority here. Again, I feel like everyone's taking Ole Miss to win. But I just think Alabama's going to be ready. Now, this does not mean that I think Alabama is back and they're going to go to the college football playoff or anything like that. I think that they'll probably still lose maybe 2 more games this year, but I don't think the sky is falling. I still think there's enough talent on this roster that they can win this game. If Ole Miss wins this game, it's going to probably be the worst season that Nick Saban has had at Alabama since his first year. I mean, they're going to lose several games, I feel like, if they lose this game. It is a must-win for the Crimson Tide. Backs against the wall. I think they bounce back and play really, really well. Next, we got Colorado against Oregon, 3:30 Eastern Time on ABC. Oregon favored by 20.5 points. I hate to go against Colorado because they proved me wrong already in the game against TCU. Now, I did pick them to win the last couple of games, but I thought TCU would beat them. I'm still not sure about Oregon. They have the potential. I think that they have a chance to be really, really good, but at times, or if you go back to the Texas Tech game, they didn't look great in that game. Had to kind of come back and win it late. And so, I really don't know what to expect here. No Travis Hunter, though, for Colorado. A defense that I think is going to give up some points here in this one. I think Oregon wins, but I'm not going to go too crazy with that point spread. I'm going to say 45-31. Again, part of me does think Oregon's going to win by more, that they're going to absolutely blow them out. But again, I'm not going to doubt Colorado. It wouldn't shock me if they won this game. They surprised me against TCU. Maybe they do it again. They did it on the road at TCU. So, I mean, you never know. But I'm going to take Oregon to win this game. Next, we've got BYU at Kansas, 3:30 Eastern Time on ESPN. Kansas favored by 8.5. I felt like coming into the season, Kansas was clearly a better team than BYU, that this would be a pretty easy win. But look, BYU's 3-0. They just went on the road and upset Arkansas, so I think you cannot overlook them here in this game. But I do think playing at home, I think Kansas is a better team than Arkansas, and I think they will win it. I'm going to go 35-23. I think BYU doesn't play quite as well as they did against Arkansas. Tough to do that 2 weeks in a row, and we're going to go Jayhawks here. Next, we got Oregon State, Washington State, 7 o'clock Eastern Time on Fox. Oregon State's favored by 3 on the road. This one's tough for me. Defense, run game for Oregon State, it's going to be there. DJ Uiagalelei hasn't looked great at times this year. Playing on the road, I just think this Washington State team, they'll use the home field advantage. They'll come out motivated as the underdogs and play really, really well. And you go back to the preseason, and I said this Washington State team is going to be better than you think. And I think they pull off the upset here. I've got the Cougars 27-23 knocking off Oregon State. And then we go Ohio State, Notre Dame. All right, the game of the weekend, 7:30 Eastern Time on NBC. Ohio State's favored by 3. I kind of feel like this game, maybe it's just me and people I talk to in the comments that I read, I feel like this game is kind of under the radar. All the talk seems to be about Alabama and their collapse. Colorado, of course. You've got all these other big games going on this weekend as well. And it almost feels like this game is not getting the attention that you would expect it to. I mean, this is a top 10 matchup. These are 2 legitimate playoff contenders. This is a huge game, and I can't wait to see what happens. Florida State, Clemson, that game seems to even be maybe getting more attention than this game. And again, maybe that's just me and what I've seen. But this is one, before last week, I was going to take Notre Dame. I thought even maybe comfortably by a couple of touchdowns because I just really like what they've added with Sam Hartman. The offense so much more explosive. They still got the run game. They still got the defense. And Ohio State kind of struggling on offense. But I feel like Ohio State found something last week against Western Kentucky. The offense finally started to click. The defense has been great all year. And I'm back to square one of trying to figure out who's going to win this game. And I've gone back and forth. I think Ohio State has a little bit more potential than Notre Dame, but this is a very tough road game for Kyle McCord. I think that maybe is the difference. I'm going to go Notre Dame playing at home. Because they're at home, they win a close one, 34-31. I don't feel very confident about this pick, but I'm going to go with the Fighting Irish. And if they win this game, I think you're probably not going to see Ohio State in the college football playoff, because I still think with Penn State and Michigan, they lose one of those games. For Notre Dame, if they lose this game, they could still maybe run the table, but the loser of this game is going to have, I think, a very hard time getting into the college football playoff just when you see everything out in front of these two teams. So this is a huge game, and the winner, is in a very good spot to make the college football playoff. Next up, we got Iowa, Penn State, 7:30 Eastern time on CBS. Penn State favored by 14.5 points in this one. Iowa's offense has started to look a little bit better. They can actually score a little bit this year, it seems like. Defense has still been really good, but I just think this Penn State team, and this is a huge game to really show if they are legitimately a playoff contender. Because if they're a playoff contender playing at home, they should take care of business in this game. They're favored by 14.5 points. If they mess around and this game winds up being really close, maybe Penn State's not where I thought they were based off of the first 3 games. I think both defenses, though, will play really well. I think it's a lower scoring game. Drew Allar, can he make the plays at quarterback against a really good Iowa defense? I think playing at home, that's going to help him. They get it done, but pretty close, 23-13. Again, I don't see many points being scored in this one, but I think Penn State definitely the better team, and I trust their offense a lot more than Iowa's. And then finally, North Carolina, Pittsburgh, 8 o'clock Eastern time on ACC Network. North Carolina favored by 7.5 in this one. I talked about this on the upset alert video. This is the type of game in the past North Carolina has typically lost. They've been upset in these types of games. Pittsburgh has not looked good at all, but it's college football. Anything can happen. But at the end of the day, I think North Carolina, the way they're playing, the way they've improved on defense, I think they get it done. I think they will win. 35-20 my prediction in this one. So give me your predictions on these 10 games. Let me know what you think is going to happen down in the comments below.